StrayAllDay.com.
You are now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. That is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques all underneath the umbrella of one unifying philosophy that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is stay out of court. Yes, stay out of court. This is not a metaphor. This is going to be a two-part series, and this episode is going to follow up on the episode I did not too long ago where I talked about being smart versus being tough. If you are a regular listener of the show, then you just heard that episode a couple weeks ago. Let me tell you what episode that was. That was episode number 3249. Be smart, not tough. And I was specifically talking to the men out there. And 3249 was about, actually, it was a nice amount of weeks ago, about 2 months ago. I record a lot. I put out a lot of material here on the show. It doesn't feel like it was that long ago, but it was. And I'm going to follow up on that. And I want to talk some more about this subject. I'm specifically talking to the men, but this can apply to the women as well. Any of you women out there who is, you are apt to pull a weapon or use your hands as weapons anytime you feel like you need to get your point across. All right, that's what we're talking about here today, and in other ways as well. And this goes to the bigger picture of all of you, whether, again, male or female, staying out of the legal court system in the United States of America. Now, I know I have a bunch of people who are who may operate within the legal system, i.e. lawyers, for example, who listen to this show. You may think I'm hurting your business by bringing up this point, but I'm actually not hurting your business. So don't think that I'm going to reduce the number of clients walking into your office or landing on your website by what I'm going to say, because most people are not going to follow what I'm going to tell you here today, whether they are listening to it or not. But the smart ones amongst all of us should and will follow everything I'm going to tell you here, because I will give you a caveat up front that nothing I say here constitutes actual legal advice. You should consult an attorney for any serious legal matters before taking any actions. But I will say that what I'm going to share here today, most people do not heed this advice. And regardless of how you feel about the rightness of your behaviors and decisions and the wrongness of other people's behaviors that may lead to your decisions, the ultimate outcome here, remember that we're in a results-based business, ladies and gentlemen. Results-based business means you are ultimately judged by the outcomes of your actions, not by the explanation of your actions. All right, the outcomes of your action matter more than the explanations of your actions, even if you can perfectly explain what you did and you feel like you can justify it. Remember, the result is all that matters. And I'm going to get into in today and tomorrow's two-part series why that result matters. Point number one. Today's topic, once again, is stay out of court. Number one, America is the most litigious society in the world and is getting worse. The most litigious society in the world means more litigation happens in America than in any other place in the world. And the lead, so to speak, that America has on every other country is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. We are lapping the rest of the world when it comes to litigation. This is great for all the lawyers, attorneys, what do they call those people? Paralegals, judges, prosecutors. This is great for them because they always have work to do. All right, maybe some of you get overwhelmed with all the work you have to do, but this is great for you because it's always business. All right, you don't want to be in an industry where there's nothing happening. There's a lot happening in the legal business in the United States of America. America has more lawyers per capita and more lawsuits filed annually than any other country in the world. There are more lawyers here per the number of people we have than there is anywhere else in the world. More people decide to be a lawyer here than relative number of people in any other place in the country. Why is this? Why is this? Because being a lawyer is just such a glamorous thing to do? I don't think so. Now, I'm not a lawyer. I don't have a law degree. But from the lawyers that I've talked to, the ones who I know, that none of them say the job is glamorous. But there is a reason why so many people join it. I just told you what it is, because there's always activity happening. There is money being made in the legal profession. And a lot of people choose professions based on, hey, I just want to make sure I can make some money. And being a lawyer is a good way to know that you can make some money. So there are over 40 million lawsuits filed every year in the United States alone. 40 million lawsuits in the United States alone every year. That's one lawsuit for every 8 Americans. So you put 8 people in a room, at least one of them is going to be involved in a lawsuit every year. There are 1.3 million active lawyers in the United States, which is more than the number of active lawyers in Germany, Japan, France, and the United Kingdom all put together. In other words, people will take other people to court for any reason or for no reason at all. especially if they believe that you have assets that they can get out of you on behalf of their client. So they being the lawyer, the other person's lawyer. They believe you have something and they can come up with any reason to sue you. They will sue you just so they can try to get some assets out of you, i.e. whatever they're suing you for, money. That's on the civil side of things. This is just the civil side. Civil is just lawsuits. You lose a lawsuit, you got to pay money. Okay, that's what civil court means. Lawsuit means civil court. The worst possible thing that can happen to you is that you get a judgment against you and you have to pay money to somebody. On the criminal side, on the other hand, the criminal side is when you get actually arrested and handcuffs are put on you and you deal with the prosecution, which is the state, whatever state you live in, versus you, or the federal government, if it's a federal crime, versus you. If you lose a criminal case, you go to jail. Okay, you lose a civil case, you pay money. You lose a criminal case, you go to jail. And sometimes you might have a criminal case and a civil case. For example, O.J. Simpson. He won his criminal case and didn't go to jail, but he lost his civil case and had to pay a bunch of money. All right, so you can get both or you can get one or the other. So on the criminal side, anytime you find yourself using any form of force, physical force, meaning a punch in the face to pulling and using a gun, anywhere in between, you are putting yourself in a legal situation. You actually could touch somebody and put yourself in a legal situation. I'll give you an example. I was running in South Beach. It was in between South Beach and downtown Miami. I was running on this road called the Venetian Causeway. Those of you familiar with it, very beautiful road. Great road, is actually perfectly designed for cyclists and runners. So I was running on the Venetian Causeway and I was pretty close to the Miami Beach side. And there's this guy walking. He had this little dog. The guy appeared to be gay. He's walking with this little dog, white guy. And you know, sometimes people are walking with their dog on a leash and the dog is kind of going all the way to one side and you're on the other side. So you're basically taking up the entire sidewalk between you and your dog. And I'm running towards him. He's walking towards me. So clearly he can see me, but he does not move himself, nor does he move his dog. So both he and his dog are taking up the sidewalk. And the only way I can get through them is either I'll have to maybe jump over his leash, which I'm not going to do, or I have to run through his dog or run through him. The only options that I have. And as I get closer and closer, he still does not move. Finally, I get like right to the point that I'm passing him. Mind you, I'm still running. I didn't slow down. And he still has not moved. And I touched him. I brushed past him, but I touched him enough just so that I didn't knock him down. Because I would have knocked the guy down had I run into him full speed. And he kind of moves a little bit. And as I run past him, I turn, I'm looking at him. And I have my palms up, looking at him like, dude, do you not fucking see me running past you? And anyway, he doesn't do anything. I keep running. I go down to where I'm going. I hit a turnaround at this point. So this is about a half mile from a turnaround for me. A turnaround means I get to a point, I do a little loop, I turn around, I come back going the exact same way that I just came. I come back the same way I just came. And there's a police wagon sitting like right across the street from where this incident, if you want to call it that, happened. And there's that guy. And as I run by, he sees me, he points to me, and then a cop comes and stops me and he says, hey, this guy said you hit him or pushed him or something that the guy said that I did. And I explained to the police officer that the dude was taking up the sidewalk. All I did was touch him so that I didn't run him over. And there's this little conversation the cop has with the other cop, and there's pretty much nothing they can do. They're like, there's no, we don't have any video cameras. There's no eyeball witnesses. All we'll do is take your information. We'll take his information. We'll give it to the district attorney, and if they want to press charges, they'll get in touch. Nothing ever came from that. I'm bringing all that up to say this, that I just did a whole series. Now, some of you remember the series that I did. I think many of you remember because I've had more than one person mention this series to me when I told you that men need to stop being pussies. Okay, episode 3224. All right, this is the kind of shit that I'm talking about. So I just told you that if you use force anywhere from a punch in the face to pulling and using a gun, but I should have gone even further back than that. As far as if you touch somebody on the shoulder while you're running past them, while them and their little dog are blocking the damn sidewalk, they could call the cops on you. This guy literally called the cops on me. Nothing happened, but again, just the fact that he called the cops. This is the kind of shit that I'm talking about, folks. You got to be aware of this because these are the kind of things happening these days. People will use the legal system, misuse the legal system. I said this to the cop, like, y'all should be out here. I said, officer, you and your fellow officers, because you know when someone calls on something like this, a domestic issue, you know, like 6 cops coming around. So there's all these cops there. I'm like, you and your fellow officers should be out fighting actual crime, and here you are having your time wasted with this bullshit. He didn't really have anything to say to that, but anyway, I went on my way. And again, the situation, nothing ever came in the situation. But when you end up in some type of legal situation, especially on the criminal side, even if you believe you're innocent, you will still have to go to court and prove it if you end up getting a charge. Let's say the district attorney decides to charge me with assault or some bullshit like that. I would have to go to court for this shit. which means you got to pay for a lawyer. You got to spend time actually going to court. That's time away from your family and kids. Maybe you're not doing something that you would have been doing with that time, opportunity costs, and everything else that comes with such a situation. And that's considering you getting found innocent and walking away from the charge. We're not even talking about if you get found guilty. You don't want to be in this situation. Again, I've already gave you an episode of the type of people you need to know in life. One of them that I mentioned specifically was that you need to know a lawyer. You need to know people who work in the legal space. Again, call that person, ask them how much it costs to defend somebody in a criminal case. It doesn't even matter what kind of charge you get. That's why you don't want to be in this situation. I know lawyers on a criminal charge, criminal defense. You're going to have to put $5,000 on the table just for them to represent you, even if you end up getting the charges dropped. $5,000 just for them to represent you in the first place. And that's why you don't want to be in court. That money can go to anything else other than this. Point number 2. Today's topic, once again, is stay out of court. Number 2, especially for the men. And even some of you women who may have aggressive tendencies or you carry a weapon, there is a thing called the continuum of force. All of you need to understand the continuum of force, because the continuum of force matters when you step off of the high school playground. When you're on the playground, the continuum of force is not really a thing. But in the legal system, continuum of force is a big thing. What does it mean? It means there are certain levels of force that you can justify using under specific circumstances. And there are certain levels of force that are not justified, even if you can justify them in your own mind or to your social media followers or to your family members. They're not the court. Everybody hear what I just said? Just because you can justify something that you did to your family, your friends, or your Facebook followers does not mean you can justify it to a judge and a jury. So understand continuum of force and what exactly it means. Okay. Someone proposed the concept, for example. I was on social media and someone proposed this concept, and I see black people getting all bent out of shape about this all the time. That there's some person who's not black, and they're talking to a person who is black, and the non-black person gets angry, and they start throwing around the N word at the black person or at black people. They start throwing around the N word because they're at the peak of their anger. So they're trying to say the most insidious thing they can say, incendiary thing they can say that's going to get you angry because they're angry. So they want to get you to join them in their anger. So they call you the worst thing they could possibly come up with to call you. This is what happens when people start calling you names when they're mad, is that they're just trying to find the thing that they can say that's going to get you to be reactionary. Because if you're reacting, then it justifies their reacting. But if you don't react, then they're sitting there reacting by themselves. This is the reason why you're in the emotional management business. You have to learn how to control your emotions. I'm saying that with the story. So black people go and get all crazy, let's just say, when they hear that some non-black person is using the N-word, and somebody's saying, and they think, okay, well, you get punched in your face, you can get beat up, or something can happen if the wrong black person hears you say something like this. Now, I will say this on a non-legal level. I generally agree with this concept. If you are not black listening to this and you throw the N-word around to somebody who is black, there's a chance that whoever that black person is might punch you in your face for doing it. So I would suggest you not do it. I suggest you not use the word. I myself try to use the word less than I used to use it, even as a black person myself. However, let me turn the tables around. If you are a black person listening to this and someone throws the N-word at you, understand, even though you may think that's the worst possible thing anybody could ever say to you, nothing someone says out of their mouths in terms of an insult is legal justification for physical violence. So whatever word somebody could say to you that you would say is like the worst, most disrespectful thing that person can ever say out of their mouth to you, just because they said it does not legally justify you beating that person up or pulling out a gun or a knife or slapping them in the face, any of those things, if that person decides to press charges against you. So if you're black and a white person calls you the N-word and you slap them in the face and they call the cops and say, this guy just slapped me in the face, and then when the cops come, you say, well, he called me the N-word, you're going to jail for battery. That's what that's battery. Yes, he called you the N-word. That's still battery. The only way someone's words can justify you using physical violence is if, and again, I'm speaking with a general sense here, it's painting with a broad legal brush, and I'm not a lawyer, consult a lawyer for making any legal decisions, is that if someone threatens you, if someone physically threatens you, if someone walks up to you and says, listen, 30 seconds from now, I'm going to punch you in the face, and you preemptively punch them in the face, and you truly believe they were going to punch you in the face, you punch them in the face first to defend yourself, depending on where you are, because in certain states, you're allowed to do that. In certain states, you're legally not really allowed to do that. Your actual first obligation is to get away from them if you have an opportunity to get away. Then maybe you could justify using force. But there's nothing someone can say like on an insult level that justifies physical violence. Again, even though I'm being very clear here, if we're in a locker room on a sports team and you say something that I don't like, then yeah, we might fight. But there's no calling the cops from that. If we're in the high school lunchroom, same thing. But if we're somewhere and or you're dealing with someone who might do that, might call the cops just because they got punched in the face, then you can get arrested for that. And this is the reason why I did my series on men stop being pussies. And one of the things that I emphasized in that series, I'm pretty sure I said it, I remember saying it, is that these days, not all men operate by the same codes that many of us, if you're over the age of 35, operated by when we were 18. There was certain code that we operated by, that if there was a physical altercation, there was a physical altercation. You won, you lost, but everybody went home. Nobody was calling the cops based on what happened. Even if you lost, you weren't calling the cops. That's the code that we operated by back then. And this applies to all races. White guys, Latin guys, black guys, we all operated by this code. That code no longer exists. There are still some people who operate by it. The challenge is, ladies and gentlemen, you're dealing with a lot of different people every day. You have no idea who operates by the code and who doesn't. I would suggest you err on the side of caution and tend to not engage with these folks. Because somebody can sound like they want one thing, and then as soon as they get the thing that they claim that they wanted, all of a sudden they become somebody different. If you understand what I'm saying. Again, so even the most reckless thing somebody can say to you does not justify physical force, legally speaking. I understand on a personal, general principle level, I understand. But on a legal level, I still understand, but a legal level is going to cost you something. Now, again, while it may sound good to do these things on the playground or in, quote unquote, the streets, what works on the playground and in the streets doesn't play too well in the court of law. All right, ask your lawyer, they'll tell you. All right, in the court of law, you're playing with your freedom and you're paying your lawyer fees. All right, so you don't want to play or pay in that sense. So don't be stupid. Okay, it's a general concept. Anytime you use force, you must justify to a judge, to a court, why using that force prevented a worse use of force from happening to you. That's the explanation for use of force. Use force, you have to explain why using that force prevented something worse from happening to you. So that guy that I brushed on his shoulder when I was running in South Beach, or that according to him, I pushed him, the only way I could justify pushing him is if he pushed me first. And if he didn't push me first, then I would be in the wrong for having pushed him. That's the situation. Legally, that's how it works. So in another example, if somebody punches you in the face, that may not justify you pulling out a gun and shooting them in the face. Because the punch in the face is not as dangerous as a shot from the gun. All right. So understand, again, this is not legal advice. Consult your attorney. And again, I already told you, you should know at least one of them. But continuum of force is a thing that you need to understand. Just because you have access to something does not necessarily mean that you should use it. It's kind of like if you're walking down the street and somebody's walking with a 5-year-old kid and you're an adult, and the 5-year-old kid hits you in your stomach. They just slap you in the stomach. Does it justify you pulling out your legally registered firearm and shooting the kid? No, because continuum of force. All right. What were you preventing from happening to you by using a gun? Justification for using a gun, which is deadly force, is that someone's about to use deadly force against you. And if you can't explain that, using that gun may cost you a lot more than you prevent it. Point number 3. Today's topic, once again, stay out of court. Number 3, all of this being said, there are crazy people in the world, and there may come a time when you do need to defend yourself. All right, this is a real thing. There will come a time in life, there may come a time in life when you need to physically defend yourself. But understand that defending yourself means just that. It means defending yourself. It means putting yourself in a situation where you can get away from someone who's attacking you, depending on what state you live in. That may be your number one legal obligation. And it also means, no matter what state you're in, not necessarily attacking another person just because you are offended or bothered by their behavior. Someone does something that offends you or bothers you or says something that annoys you, that does not justify using physical violence. And again, some of you come from environments where it seems like that makes it okay. It's okay because the cops ain't involved. But once the cops get involved and the courts get involved, and if the person to whom you did it decides to use the legal system, now you have to explain yourself to a judge, not to your friends, to a judge. Those are two different audiences. So it's a very important distinction that I'm making here, is why I keep focusing on this, because the legal system has become more and more harsh and on just people in general. Well, in certain instances, let me not even say that. It's become more and more of what I've already explained, because there are more lawyers out there looking to get paydays for themselves and for their clients, if they can find a reason, or even if they need to create a reason. This is what's happening. This is what lawyers do, especially on the civil side of things. Especially on the civil side. So even if the criminal side doesn't work, they always go to the civil side and get some money out of you. Especially if you are, for whatever reason, known for or believed to have resources, you will get the civil suits. So your job is to not give people a reason and not make yourself a target in the process. One thing that makes you a target is being a highly reactive individual. This is the reason why I told you you're in the emotional management business. If you're known as a reactive individual and it's noted or believed that you have some resources that can be gotten, then there are people who will try to bait you into that reaction just so they can get some money out of you. All right, this is how it goes. Your job is not give them a reason. All right, especially if you do not want to throw any of your money away at a legal case or put more money in the pocket of your lawyers. Trust me, they make plenty of money from the stupid people. Don't be one of them. Let's recap today's class, which is stay out of court. This is going to be a 2-part series. Again, number 1, America is the most litigious society in the world. It is getting worse. All right, why do so many people become lawyers? Because a lot of money to be made in the legal system based on people getting sued and people needing lawyers for whatever reason. Usually because of their own negligence and lack of understanding of what I'm explaining here today and tomorrow. Number 2, especially for the men and the women who have aggressive tendencies or carry a weapon, understand a continuum of force. The force that you use against another person in what you claim to be self-defense needs to be equal to or lesser than whatever they were doing to you. And again, you must legally justify and explain that. Not justify it in your own mind, which is very easy. We call that rationalization. Ain't no rationalization in court. In court, you must logically explain why you did what you did. Not rationalizing, like making it sound okay to you because you just came up with a story. All right, if your story doesn't land too well with the judge, you're going to jail. All right, that's what you need to understand. Number 3, all of this said, there are crazy people in the world, and there may come a time where you need to defend yourself, but understand that defend yourself means just that, defending yourself. Doesn't mean you go and beat the shit out of a person just because they pushed you. All right, that's not defending yourself. All right, that's going on the offense, and once you go overboard, now you're the offender. Now, they were the offender, but now you're the offender because you went too far. So, again, be smart. All that said, folks, tomorrow we're going to get into part 2 of this series. Between now and then, 2 things for you to do. Make sure you go check out my custom chat bot at dreallday.com/AI. That's dreallday.com/AI. And workonyourgameuniversity.com. That's where you can work with me together, work with me directly, have your plan mapped out as far as what you're doing personally and professionally, strategy-wise, systematizing this, and having me coach you on implementation all the way through. Go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. Work on your game. Dre all